Okay. Good afternoon and welcome, everyone. So today's topic we're going to discuss is the importance of recruiting, training, and motivating your employees. I think, when I speak to business owners, and I've been really, really lucky because I've been doing this for a long time, and I've met some really successful people along the way. The one thing I've realized that they all really good at doing is they're good at finding good people. And you've got to understand this, is that's your responsibility. Now, every now and then people will say, well, it's hard to get good people. And I understand that. But here's the thing, getting good people sometimes is about finding the right people, that are really qualified. And on the other hand, it's training people from scratch. And here's one of the lessons I learned, working in Southern Africa for the first half of my life, is often a lot of your employees are not qualified or not educated and things like that, and through no fault of their own. And so what happens is you are forced to actually teach them, the skills from the bottom up. And I think this is something that all of us need to take into consideration as maybe one of our best ways to recruit people going forward. Instead of finding the perfect person, is finding good people and then nurturing them and growing them through the process. And I still think this is the best way to do it. And one of the most successful business owners that I worked with was a guy by the name of Owen, who I think I've been trying to work out over the last few months, who is the most successful person that I've worked with. And I think it's him, because he employs over 5,000 people. He's now operating in 3 different continents. And I remember when this guy started his business 25 years, geez, this time flies, maybe 30 years ago now. But him and I used to meet every Wednesday afternoon. So every Wednesday afternoon, I used to go to Owen's office, and we used to discuss the businesses we were going to build. But the thing that he was really, really good at was finding good people. And often they didn't have experience in the industry. He'd go out looking for people that he believed were good humans. He used to use the term, I don't even know if it's a derogatory term, but anyway, I'll say it. He used to use the term, we're looking for good humans and salt of the earth type of people. And I don't know if that translates into other languages, but that's the type of people he was looking for. And he was really good at doing that. I know, for example, a friend of mine that he employed did a bit of English literature at university and things like that. And he turned her into this great marketer. And she's still doing marketing now. So it was really interesting that he used to take people and then nurture them slowly, try and identify what they were really good at and not worried about their qualifications. And the reason he wasn't worried about the qualifications is he was a university dropout. So because he was a university dropout, he realized as a business owner that if I was judged on my education only, I would be basically screwed. And I think this helped him grow his business. And he's built this great company that employs a lot of people and, more importantly, helped a lot of people. The other thing that I learned from him is that nobody's going to stay with you forever. You should assume they're going to stay with you for about 3 years. But even when they leave you, you'll still have this relationship. So I found that people that have worked with him, worked in his company over the years and left for different reasons, still have this really good relationship with Owen, because I think that's what he was really good at doing. And I've had the situation now also with this guy I'm working with now in Europe, the same situation. I find he's just an ordinary guy, not the smartest guy in the world, but he's been very, very successful at surrounding himself with good people. And he finds that he tends to find people with a lot of potential rather than a lot of skills. And I always found this fascinating. And I think it goes back to some of his insecurities. Also not the smartest guy at school. He was dyslexic and all those different type of things that sometimes entrepreneurs have. But here's the lessons I've learned is, as a business owner, you want to understand very, very clearly, what is this person going to do? What is the job you want them to do? And this is where you've got to think of the skills. Do they have to be very organized? Or do they have to be good writers? Or do they have to be creative? Or do they have to be good with budgeting or managing or communicating, whatever it is? That's the thing you want to look for. And you want to try and identify, does this person have that? And I think this is more important than anything, because then you want to find the person. So you're going to write down the job description, and you want to find the person for the that can do what they're responsible to do. So you're going to write down very, very clearly what their job description is, and more importantly, what their responsibilities are. The next thing you want to think about is, what qualifications and experience do they need? Again, really depending on, for example, what type of person you're employing. For example, if it was a requirement that they need to be have a degree or something like that, what exactly do they need to have? In our case, for example, in our business, that's not a priority. It may help that somebody's gone to university and learned English literature, or gone to university and learned how to, I had an employee, for example, that did a degree in magazine content and design, which was very, very interesting, but it was almost impossible to find a position for her. But then what I realized once I met her was she was a really good writer. She was creative, so she'd learned how to use Photoshop really well and those type of things. So even though I was not looking for a magazine designer and writer, she turned out to be one of my best employees. Because what happened was, when we had this discussion, I realized what she was good at. And I think that's the key. The other thing you need to look for is people skills, because this is really difficult to teach. I, for example, am not the right person for customer service. I'm too blunt, too straightforward, those type of things. I have no patience. So I'm the wrong person for you to bring in to manage your customer service or deal with customer complaints or whatever it is. So even thinking about those things, is this person capable of doing that? Are they empathetic? Are they responsive? Do they understand what good customer service is? These are the type of things you want to think about. And where do we find these people? Because I think this is really key, is that as a business owner, we have to be more creative. We have to be more creative. And the reason we have to be more creative is, I don't know if many people, although I think that may change, COVID, I think, has helped this a little, is I don't think, any people that are really very good at their job want to work in a small business. And sometimes it's about their ego. I remember, as I'm speaking now, one of my son's girlfriends, she was super brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and she was the type of person that I believed should be running her own business. And I said this to her over and over again over the years, not that it was in my business, but I said this to her. But the challenge she had was, she was brought up in a household where working for a large, respectable company was an achievement. And it was crazy, because nothing I said, she even started her own business while she was going out with my son, started her own business, registered it, and eventually went back to the corporate life. And I'm thinking, you hated the corporate life, but went back to that because it was almost like this prestige. I worked for a large company, and because I work for a large company, people are going to respect me. That was almost what she said, not in so many words, but you've got to understand that as a small business owner, is that we've got to sell different things. We've got to sell flexibility. We've got to sell working from home. We got to sell, that you're involved in decision-making and things like that. And those are the type of people we want to be looking for. And I think the other thing is also always be open and honest with your employees. I have employed some really good marketing people, for example, over the years, and advertising people. And typically what happens is they're working for me for about 3 years. A large ad agency approaches them and offers them much more money than I'm paying them. And then they'll come to me and they'll say to me, because we have this good relationship, they'll say to me, what do you think I should do? And I say to them, I think you should leave. And they say, but why? I say, well, that's what I would do. If somebody's paying me another $20,000 a year or $30,000 a year, why would you not go? And also, you'd learn and things like it. So they knew, whoever works for me knows that I almost expect them to leave. I expect them to leave after about 3 or 4 years. They'll learn a whole lot of things working with me, and I expect them to leave. And I think the important thing that if you work with this mindset, you're almost like always looking for that next employee, always looking, putting out feelers there to see, who are the good people that you can reach out to come and work with you. So where do you find good people? Your employees, your network, your websites and social media. You can, poach people from other big companies, which is really not something I like doing, or get involved in these local government agencies. There's programs, depending on where you live, but there's programs across North America where even some of, the salaries for these people get subsidized. For example, I'm working on a project now, really not my type of thing, but a really interesting project. What they're doing is they're creating templates for businesses. So for example, if you want to open a coffee shop, these are all the things you require. This is what you need to do, blah, blah, blah. And it's something that I have some experience in, and I'm helping these people, but they're using university students. So the one's doing a doctorate, the one's doing an MBA, and the other one, I don't know, much smarter than me, but they doing all the grunt work, let's call it like that. They're doing all the grunt work, and I'm just helping them through the process. And there's an example of how the projects can work. So the organization I'm working with approached the local university, said, we're looking for a few MBA students to work on this project. How can you help us? The other thing is I found works really, really well for me is when I know a good person, let's say, for example, a good marketing person, or I know a good content developer or something like that, ask them if they know somebody else. Because I find, and I've had this situation quite a few times, some of the really good employees that I've had over the years was somebody that I saw doing something somewhere. And this happened to me actually a couple of weeks ago. I was looking for a graphic designer. And I thought to myself, let me go on to Fiverr or to Upwork, because those are the easiest places. Just go in there, put an ad, and you find a person. Anyway, went on there, put an ad, found a person, and it was not good. Let me be honest with you, it's not good. And I thought to myself, and I can keep trying, putting out ads and trying to find somebody, or I can ask somebody else. And that's exactly what I did. I reached out to somebody that I know does marketing, and I said to her, do you know somebody that does graphic design? And she said, sure, I've got somebody that's done some work for us before. She's really good. Why don't you speak to her? I spoke to her, and she's really good. And I'm really happy because I've struggled. Here's the thing, to find good people is not that easy, but it's also not that difficult. I know we work on a lot of different projects where we work with different people, doing video, doing audio, doing, there's lots of people out there, but you almost need to create a criteria for yourself. And the next thing I think it's really, really important is you've got to become really good at interviewing people. That's one of the things. And also make people understand that you are going to test them. You are going to, you are expecting the best from them. And I find that when you open upfront and honest with people, I think it really helps. And don't assume anything about anybody. I know, for example, I was thinking about something now. During COVID, we did this course, a long course, 8 hours of online learning, which is a lot of hard work. And it was really interesting that we used 4 different presenters. And the one presenter that we used, I just took for granted that they would be good at what they did. And let me tell you why I took it for granted, is they were highly qualified, they ran their own business, and they'd survived in business for 2 or 3 years. So I assumed straight away, you know what? These people are going to be good presenters and they will know their stuff. And it was the exact opposite. They had no idea what they were doing and they were horrible presenters. I found the people that were not so sure about whether they could do some online learning content were better, because then I almost coached them through the process. I coached them through the process, gave them more detail, explained to them, actually, I think spent more time with them because I thought they weren't qualified to do the job. And I think this is really key, is that sometimes when somebody's qualified, we assume that they're much better than they actually are. And this has happened to me a few times over the years. Actually, now that I think about it, it's happened to me a few times over the years where I assumed something about somebody based on their qualifications and the experience, and I was let down. So here's the thing you want to get. You want to get through that facade. You want to get through that BS that they have in the beginning and get through to what type of person am I dealing with. So questions you can ask. And again, I'm going to focus specifically on my business because that's the business I know. I don't know your businesses. I can't tell you what questions you should ask. But any one of you can go on to Google this afternoon, type in the best interview questions to ask, and somebody's created a list on the internet. And I encourage you to do that. And then come up with your own list. Things like, why do you want this job? What are your goals and dreams are important for us? Because we're trying to find entrepreneurial people that maybe come from, their parents or family members being a business owner, so they understand that bit of information a little, which is really key for us. It really helps. I've found in our businesses, that's one of the criteria. So if one of the parents have been in business, or if they've started a business, maybe in high school or during a summer program or anything like that, is really helpful, because then they understand some of the challenges that these people go through. The other thing is always ask people what they think they can contribute to the business. Because I've seen this a bunch of times. I remember the one time interviewing for a marketing person, got some people from the local university, and this one person spoke specifically about doing TV advertising and radio advertising. And I realized straight away, they just didn't understand small business. And if they don't understand small business, I'm not yet to teach them about the importance of small business. And I'm not yet to teach them how to become a marketer. If they understand marketing, I can make them a better marketer. But I'm not going to teach somebody marketing from scratch if they claim that they qualify to do that. Also give them different scenarios, give them a situation and ask them how they've dealt with it before or how they would deal with it. I find that helps a bit, just to understand how people, their thought process, how they solve problems and things like that. And then, things that they're really proud of that they've done before, some of their achievements, I think that really helps. Because the idea here is to get good quality people that you can nurture, that you can train, that you can coach through the process. And in the beginning, let me be honest with you, if you get somebody that is less qualified, it may be a lot more work up front, but I think in the long term, it's gonna be better. They're going to be better employees. What you're going to be very careful of, and which can be really frustrating as a business owner, is when you employ somebody with experience and they'll say, well, that's not how we did it at the last company. That really frustrates me when I hear that, because you want to create a business. You want to create your own culture. You want to create your own environment. You want to create your own way of doing things. And if that's the case, sometimes taking people with experience becomes a nightmare because they bring bad habits from the previous jobs. Does the person have the right personality traits? Things like motivated, things like goal setting, things like a great attitude. All of those things could be really important for you in your business. And in our business, it's really, really important. Will they get along with the employees in the company? That's something you got to think about. And one of the strategies you could use is maybe actually bring some of your employees into the interview and let them ask questions, and just because usually I would say it's about gut feel. If you interview a person enough, if you speak to a person enough, you will get the answers you're looking for. And after a while, you'll get a feeling for, are they good or not good? How do they communicate verbally and in writing? That could be important for you. For example, in our business, we may give them a little test. You got 10 minutes and you've got to do a presentation on business plans. Or we got to write a blog post for one of our clients, and it's the top 10 things that small business owners need to do to grow their business or whatever. So we give them a task and see how they deal with it. Can they solve problems, and do they have a positive energy? But here's what I want you to understand is that the interview process can be quite a process. I typically will interview people 3 times, first interview, second interview, and third interview. And very, very often, I will bring somebody into that interview. And the reason I'll bring somebody into it, firstly, is I do not want to discriminate against people. I also don't want to make emotional decisions. We got to be very, very careful. You might be sitting in front of somebody and you might like them, and that's a problem. You don't employ people because you like them. You employ people because they're going to do a great job. And I think this is why it's really, really important that you create a process. Put out a very good ad, very specifically what you want, then do a first interview, maybe choose the top 5 people, do a second interview, and then do a third interview and choose out of the top 2 or 3. And I know this is a process, but let me just say something to you. Hiring a person is very easy. Firing them is a whole nother bit of detail. That takes a lot of work, a lot of time, and often costs a lot of money. So what you want to try and do is avoid that. And the challenge you've got is that if you're working with somebody that doesn't fit in with your small business, or is not happy in the job, or you don't, you're not happy with them, that is a very toxic environment to be in. The guy from Virgin, he always says, I'll think of his name now, but he always says that, what if you train your employees and they leave? Because that's some of our problems. I hear business owners saying, what if I get somebody good, I train them, and then they leave? And his story is, Richard Branson's the guy's name. He says that, what if you train them and they're not good and they stay? And I think that is far worse. And you've got to understand this, is that you do not want bad employees to stay working for you. So you want to make sure that you get the best possible people. And then you want to make sure that you train them up really well to do what you need them to do. Because usually the first, maybe year or even 2 years, it's really investing in people. That's what you're doing, is you're educating them, you're training them, you're teaching them your systems and processes. And then you want to start really benefiting from them. But the more organized you are, the more disciplined you are in the interview process, the better it is for you. So what type of employees do we want? Or what type of employees do I want in my business? I want people with a great attitude. That's really, really important. I want people that have similar values and principles. They're prepared to work hard, they'll do the job, and they love working with small business. I want people that will fit in with our company culture. And and that is something actually quite important. For some, you need to try and answer these type of questions. For example, a very common thing now going forward is going to be, employees maybe coming to work 2 days a week or 3 days a week and working from home or whatever it is. So let's say you're a remote company. Well, you need to know, does this person fit in with that type of environment? Because some people, are not productive in that type of environment. You've heard all the, maybe even friends of yours, some of them say, well, I like working from home because I'm very productive. And then other people say, you know what, I prefer going into the office because I like, hanging around with other people and things like that. So when you're interviewing somebody, you want to try and understand, what type of person they are. Do they have the right business skills and people skills? And I think business skills you can teach, but people skills are hard to teach, I think. I really believe that. And are they teachable and prepared to learn, which is something really, really important. You've got to be very, very careful. I know I'm working on an interesting project now, but I've got one person that I'm really a bit concerned about. And the reason I'm concerned about this person is actually a couple of projects now. But the one person that I'm concerned about is that they think they know everything. And I find that people that think they know everything are problems, because then they've got opinions about everything. Even when it's not relevant, they have opinions about those things. We even have a thing, for example, with content. So we've been creating content for the last 5 years. So one of our biggest nightmares is when you send things for approval. So let's say, for example, we're going to create, and this scenario happened last week, a business plan presentation. If you send it to 5 people in the company and the 1 or 2 people know nothing about business plan creation, but will give their opinion anyway, they're wasting your time. So our rule with, when we're working with clients is, we're the experts. We'll listen to your opinions, all that type of stuff. But really, at the end of the day, we're the experts. And if you think you're the expert, well, then you need to tell us what we need to do. Otherwise, just let us do our job. And I'm dealing with one person like that now, and on another project too. And this person, interestingly enough, that I'm speaking with, got involved in this project where it had nothing to do with them. And it almost killed, well, not almost, it did kill the project. And this is what you got to be very, very careful of, is that there are certain people that are just not teachable. They think they know everything, and that's not a good thing, especially in small business, because we're innovative, we're changing. All those things are quite important, I think. But what do employees want? I want you to think back to when you were an employee. I've never been an employee, but I've worked on lots of different projects, a lot of different teams. And typically, I want to work with nice people. I want to work in an environment where people are friendly, they are caring, and there's a bit of respect. That's the environments I want to work in. And, as a business owner, I have that advantage, is that I only work on projects where I like the people. And if I don't like the people, I just don't work on the project. I'm not that desperate. And that's one of the advantages of being a business owner. But not all of us have, are able to do that. Employees want a secure job. You've got to understand that, you and I as business owners, we almost thrive on this insecurity. We like it. It's adventurous. We have sleepless nights worrying about how we're going to pay our bills at the end of the month, but we don't need job security. Whereas employees really need this. And I will never really understand this, I must be honest. So I see people that are miserable, hate their jobs, but they're happy to get their salary every 2 weeks or once a month or whatever it is. And you've got to understand this. So, if you've got an employee that is really good and they're afraid they're going to lose their jobs, that's a bit of a problem, okay? Because they've got mortgages to pay or rent to pay, they've got children to take care of, and it's really important that they know that they will get their salaries. They want to be paid a fair wage, which is another really important thing, I think. And I have this rule both with employees and with contractors, is we always pay a little bit more. And why do we pay a little bit more? Is because we get better people. And I've done this a bunch of times over the years. Said to somebody in an interview is, how much would you like to earn? And they tell me, and you don't have to ask that question. Sometimes I think it's not even legal to ask that question, but I will ask them sometimes and usually pay them more than that. So that's the other thing. The other thing that I've learned to do is if I'm working with small business owners, I will not negotiate price with them. But if they don't perform, obviously I won't work anymore with them, but I do not negotiate price with them, because I've realized as a business owner, there's nothing more frustrating when you've given somebody a price that you think is fair, and then they try and nickel and dime you, and then you're just not motivated to do the work. I'm like that. Anyway, they want to be recognized for work they've done. And a lot of people you've heard that have left jobs, especially over the last 2 years, 5 years, have said things like, they don't really appreciate me. And I think that's a big thing that we can do in small business. We can appreciate people. They want fair management. Just be very careful of that. I think that sometimes some of us are a little bit aggressive. Some of us are, manage people based on our moods and things like that. And you don't want to be that person. I mean, you don't want to be treated badly by a manager or an owner. Just be very, very careful of that. And I know all of us have bad days and things like that, but try and avoid taking it out on staff. They want to participate in decisions. They want to make a meaningful contribution, and they want clear expectations. I believe that all of these things we can give them. As small business owners, we can give them. And that's what we got to sell to them. We got to sell this advantage of working in a small business. You learn more. You participate in decisions. You'll do stuff that you never expected to do, and you'd probably never do in a large company. You will learn how to run your own business if you so desire. If you desire to do that one day, those are the things you need to sell. The other thing we just got to be very, very careful of as business owners is that we don't get the legal stuff in place. Little things like maybe have a non-compete agreement, get a lawyer to do that for you, a non-disclosure document that they don't disclose any of your secrets, and then just a little bit of a contract. Don't go overboard, but you want to protect yourself and you want to protect the employees. I think what happens, and I've seen this many times over the years, is, we don't write those things down. We're too casual about it, which all of us are guilty of, including myself, and then it comes back and bites us. The other thing you've got to be very careful of, and this is really important, that I've seen a lot of people doing this, is they will employ somebody and call them a contractor when they're not actually a contractor. So our government doesn't like that at all. Actually, no governments in the world like that, to be honest with you. So they want you to, if somebody works with you all the time, if they come to the same office, if you control the way they work and things like that, they want us to call them employees and treat them like employees. So just be very, very careful of that. If somebody works for you and works for other people and is allowed to work for other people, we can call them contractors, okay? But you've all heard these stories where somebody comes and works for a company and they say to them, okay, this is how we're going to pay you, register a company, invoices every month, and we'll pay you. Just be very, very careful of that being legal. Check with a lawyer to make sure that that's fine. Once you've hired somebody, so you've decided this is the right person, I have always done this in the beginning, is, almost introduce them to our company. For example, what is our business vision? What are our values and principles? What are our company rules and policies? So that before they even ask, we've shared this information with them. It's really sharing your goals and your dreams with them. I think it's really important that they understand that, especially if you're a small business. If you're a small business, but your plan is to grow or to scale or to work internationally, whatever it is, I think it's important that employees know this, because then it makes them aware of your growth forward. The other thing you want to do is you want to introduce them to your coworkers, customers, suppliers, people that are important in the business, and do this in the first week, so you have a bit of time, because otherwise we get busy. We get busy and we don't have time to do these things, and you just got to be very, very careful of this. And, assign them maybe a mentor or coach, or maybe you're going to be their mentor or coach, encourage them to ask questions, and then invest time in training them. And I think this is a really, really important thing. as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about the most successful business owners I know. They're always doing stuff for the employees. They're bringing in speakers, they're having Friday training programs. And if they can't afford to bring in speakers, they're educating their their employees. So those are the type of things you want to do. Maybe create a library, for example, of books they can read and things like that. But you want to, I believe, we have no option going forward but to become training organizations, because these are some of the things you're going to be dealing with. You're going to have employees, for example, that maybe can't, use spreadsheets properly, or don't know how to work a computer properly, whatever it is. They're not going to tell you these things. Or don't know how to write emails properly, or don't know how to use Gmail properly, whatever it is. So what you want to try and do is not assume anything, and you want to be able to make them more productive. And I've seen people, I've got examples of people that'll spend a day doing a spreadsheet. Well, it's just not their thing. So you've got two options. Either you train them how to do spreadsheets properly, or don't get them to do spreadsheets. Because this is what you want to do, is you want to find employees, you want to focus on their strengths. Everybody has weaknesses. You don't want to, you can try and improve their weaknesses, but I think it's a better use of your time, strengthening their strengths, taking their strengths and making those better. So train your employees regularly, once a week, once every 2 weeks, create things that work for you. I know, for example, not my thing, but organizations that, have team building things and all that type of stuff. And they say it works really well for them. For me, never really been my thing, but those are the type of things you can think about, because that helps understand your employees, that helps, them open up to you and things like that. And I think this connection is really, really important. I can think of one company that I work with specifically, what they do every year, because they 100% remote. So they work in 12 different countries, they 100% remote, but every year they bring in all the main managers and senior people to an event where they let them, bond and connect and educate and things like that. And I've been part of this because I speak at these conferences for them, and it's really, really good. They even did it this year. They did a really good job because they couldn't do it in person. They did it online. Just got some software, and I thought it was really, really brilliant. So because they have 12 different countries that they work in, each country created a short little video, sent it through, and then got everybody involved. I gave them gifts and all this type of stuff. So they were really, really creative. And the idea here is they realize that in their case, people are isolated, and because they're isolated, they need to get them involved. So they can't fly them to, usually they fly them to one island and then they get together. They couldn't do it this year. And I think it's worked in their favor, because now their plan is to, instead of having once a year event, to do it every month, which I think is really smart and something you can maybe implement, maybe one Friday afternoon every month, just educate your employees, have a bit of fun maybe with them, do different things that work in your organization. But you want to try and do these little things. They may not be relevant to you, but for employees, I think they're very, very important. The other thing you want to try and identify is you want to try and identify what motivates your employees. Just understand that not everybody's motivated by the same thing. Some of us are motivated by money. Some of us are motivated by, working for somebody that's flexible, somebody that, allows us to, bring our kids to work or whatever it is. But these are some of the things you need to think about and understand that different things motivate different people. The other thing that I think really works very well too is having, performance appraisals. And again, you're a small business, you don't want to formalize these things too much, but you want to encourage your employees to plan ahead. And also you want to understand that you want them to understand that they've got to set themselves goals if they want to improve as an employee. And I found over the years that this has worked really well for us. Even when I was involved in retail years ago, We used to get all our employees, cashiers, merchandisers, all of those type of things, speaking about some of their goals, some of their dreams, what they want to achieve, or what do they want to improve. And I found that, it helped them to become more motivated and things like that. The other thing we need to learn to do as employees is listen to our employees. We want to develop a caring attitude in a great place, be likable and have fun. But here's a really important thing that I always say is that you want to be friendly with your employees, but you're not their friends. And I think this is really, really key. And one of your objectives, and I say this to all business owners that I meet, and I've had this discussion with my two boys over the last few months, is that, you want to get the right team together. Because once you got the right team that you trust, that show up on time, that you trust their work, it makes growing a business much easier. But you've got to get a core team, a core group of people, maybe 3 or 4 people that you work with, that you can rely on, that respond to you, all of those things, and you can build a business. But it's really, really important. I think for any one of you that want to scale your business, I think that is the most important thing. I really believe that. The most important thing is, if you want to scale, is to try identify people that will strengthen your team. Because in the startup phase of a business, it's you. You're responsible for everything. You probably manage everybody. You do all those things. But as your business grows, that's not the way you're going to be scaling. That's not the way to grow. The way to grow is to delegate tasks and give people responsibility. And I've seen a couple of really good examples. One that I can think of now, of a company that employs they started off with 2 business owners. Now they employ over 300 people. And the business has grown much more once they put the right people in place, managers. And actually the 2 founders are not even involved in the day-to-day running of the business, because they used to make too many emotional decisions, which as a business scales are not the best. The other lesson I've learned as a business owner is the power of praise. You want to praise your employees. Nobody's going to complain if you keep praising them. And I think this is really, really important. And you want to find something good in everyone that works in your business. Doesn't matter what they're doing. Praise people that try is really what you want to be doing. And praise people that, use their initiative. Even if they fail, you want to praise people that do this. Obviously, certain things that are expensive, you want them to discuss with you in advance, but you want people to be creative. You want people to take a few risks, and you want people to share their ideas with you. And I think one of the most important things I've learned as a business owner is you want to praise individually and publicly. So if you can't pay people enough money, just keep praising them. They'll love it. I mean, this is some of the things that everyone's seeking. People are seeking that. They acceptance, being appreciated, all these things. And I found this a lot over the last 2 years, where people have made massive changes because they realized that, driving to work, hour and a half every day, working in a job that you hate, and then coming home and complaining about it is not the life people want. So we as business owners, we as managers, we as leaders, we can create these really cool environments where people love coming to work every single day. So here's my advice to you. Plan before you employ anybody, or even if you contract anybody, plan in advance exactly what they're going to be doing. And when you give them instructions, give them very clear instructions of exactly what you expect of them. Interview people properly. It's really important that you create a process. Take time to interview people. It is a pain in the ass, but it's a worthwhile investment. And now, maybe do an online interview, but you got to be doing in-person interviews too, because now we can do them. Understand what employees want. People want to work for a great boss in a great environment, and they want to earn a fair wage. That's what people want. And if you had to work for a boss, that's exactly what you would want too. Don't ignore the legal details. I think this is really, really important, because sometimes we overlook that, because typical small business. Train your employees, and praise often. I believe that if you and I focus on these things, we can build a successful business. And I really believe that there's massive opportunity going forward for small business. You know, growing our own businesses, working with larger companies, contracting our stuff, all of these things are massive opportunities. And I believe there's going to be massive growth over the next 5 years. I really believe this. And we got to be ready for that. But the only way you're going to be able to grow and scale is if you get the right people. And you got to get into a habit of going through this process, you know, not assuming anything, you know, making sure you go through this difficult process of choosing the right people. And if you do that, I believe you can build a successful business. And I believe that every one of you are capable of doing that.